Good morning. So where I'm at today has over 200 years of documented military history on this property alone. And everything that we're basically going to see here, not everything, the majority of what we're going to see here comes from World War II. But we'll get to that on the other side of the intro, and definitely on the other side of this sunrise. I'm going to enjoy a little bit more coffee and see if we can get some better light. Waiting on the sun as usual. Alright, so the first step in understanding why there's a strong history of military fortifications being on this property, that is mainly because you need to understand the geographic situation that we're here, that's currently here. I'm on the coast of New Hampshire right now, where this is the Atlantic Ocean, obviously. Okay. To our south is Rye, New Hampshire, and to my north is Kittery, Maine. The body of water that separates Maine and New Hampshire here is the Piscataqua River. And about a mile up the Piscataqua River is the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. Now the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard is the oldest continuously working naval shipyard in the country. I believe it's one of 4 total in the country. In today's world, they serve mainly the submarine fleet, whether it's repair, modernization, overhaul. In World War II, the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, they were cranking out submarines as well, building there in their dry docks. At one point, the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard launched 4 brand new subs in one day, which I believe is still a record. All right, so you got to protect the harbor entrance from a possible German U-boat threat. You got to protect the shipyard. On the north side of the harbor entrance is Fort Foster in Kittery, Maine. That was active during World War II. Fort Dearborn to the south. Fort Stark is where I'm at now. Fort Constitution just a little bit north of us, but still in New Hampshire. And then across the river on the Maine side is Fort Foster. Alright, so what you're seeing here, this breakwater was actually built in 1898 by the Army Corps of Engineers. And it was actually maintained by them, I want to say, all the way through World War II. Obviously, I came down to the rocks just so you could get a better look at the Fort Stark Pier that once was here during World War II. You know what's interesting too, right? If this is the Fort Stark Pier, then obviously right now it's low tide. So basically any ships that wanted to come at this pier, depending on how much water they would draft, you would almost be only accessible at high tide, which is what I'm getting at, because this is low tide, and at high tide you're maybe looking at 8 feet of water tops. So a little interesting note right there, I think. Moving on, and there's a tiny little brick building here, oil storage house, 1903. You're also probably kind of curious as to what oil is being stored in a tiny little shack down here on the water. Well, the oil that was stored here would have been used for signal lanterns, or even like a lighthouse. So any kind of light or communication device that ran off oil would have been stored right there. All right. Right. So it's just here filming the oil storage house, right? Most people walk by here, this little section of rock wall here. So this could very well, I don't know how true this is, this could very well be part of a rock wall section here. It was built in 1872, 1873 as part of a battery that was going to be constructed here at Fort Stark. But during World War II, when Fort Stark became its biggest size of over 2,600 people, serving their country and working here, They destroyed a lot of the obviously previously earthworks and any kind of battery that was here before World War II. Had to modernize, had an update. So not much left of this type of history here on the property today. So here at Fort Stark, there were 4 batteries. You have Battery Hunter, Battery Haze, Battery Little, and I believe Battery Kirk. The first one we're going to take a look at here is Battery Little. So Battery Little, its armament would have been 2 3-inch guns on pedestal mounts. Here, this is where one 3-inch gun would have been placed. And like I said, they're on pedestal mounts. So this looks like this would have been some sort of fire suppression system for the weapon, maybe. Gun 1 on Battery Little, 3-inch gun. The second gun position is just on the other side here. So this would have been the second gun position, the second 3-inch gun of Battery Little. Hey, what would be between the 2 3-inch guns of Battery Little? This undoubtedly would have been your fire control for Battery Little. Would probably be right here. Battery Little, you have on the first floor a bunch of rooms, probably would have been ammunition storage or comms. Maybe a barracks, maybe, highly doubtful, but maybe a barracks for the gun crews that were, on fire watch or whatnot. Come up to the second floor here, you got one 3-inch gun here, one 3-inch gun down there, with an OP bunker or fire control station in between the 2 batteries of the 3-inch guns. So this is the south end of Battery David Hunter here at Fort Stark. It's the largest battery here at Fort Stark. It was essentially 2 12-inch cannons. They can launch those rounds up to 20 miles off the coast. So that's a pretty big poke that you can send. Now at the south end of the battery here, this second floor, as well as the OP bunker up top, that would have been your fire control station for Battery Hunter. And then see all these columns down below? They actually all lead to rooms that would have been used for just basic storage, as well as ammunition storage, as well as for like generator rooms as well. Okay, what you're actually looking at here is the very first gun pit of Battery David Hunter. So the cool thing about the 2 12-inch guns here at Battery Hunter is that the 12-inch guns themselves were on disappearing carriages, so disappearing gun carriages. So what would happen, right? The firearm would be horizontal and down, inside and behind that concrete wall when it was not firing. So the gun crew would be around here. They would load the cannon from back here, and then they would raise the cannon up, so it would actually get up higher than this wall. It would peak up. They'd launch that round. So it's up. They're gonna fire that round, get it out to sea at their target, and then the recoil is so big, it's gonna force that whole cannon back down, and it's gonna actually lay down back in its cradle. That way the gun crew can be easily accessible to reload. Really cool. In the middle here of this kind of open space, all behind all the batteries and combat structures, believe it or not, this looks like a mini town back here. Like I said, we'll touch upon that later. Right, I'm in between the 2 12-inch guns here at Battery Hunter. So like I said, once again, you got to use your imagination a little bit. This would have all been clear cut. All this foliage, all these trees would not have been here. So you would have had an absolute commanding view of the Portsmouth Harbor entrance, which is right here in this area. Undoubtedly one of the most interesting things here at Fort Stark would be this building. Now at first glance, what would you say that looks like? Why is the building rounded? When Fort Stark really began construction here, not necessarily for World War II, but during that same time period, higher ups thought, well, we're right on the coast, got to protect the harbor entrance. What if we make our harbor entrance command post, HECP, which is that building right there, what if we rounded the structure, made the windows even look like windows of a naval ship on the bridge of a naval ship? That way, if any unsuspecting German either surface vessels or submarines were lurking just offshore and they caught a glimpse of that structure, maybe they think it was just a little bit more heavily defended than it really is. Not a bad thought. A lot of World War II was based on deception, deceiving the enemy. This right here might have been a little crazy to me, but nonetheless it worked. Now in retrospect, in hindsight's always 20/20. You can always say it worked, but was it ever tested? You have the HECP scene here behind me, and right at its 12 o'clock, once again, use your imagination, all this brush, trees would all been clear cut, giving the harbor entrance command post a legitimate commanding view of the entrance of the Piscataqua River. Everything coming and going is under that watchful eye there. Now, you may be thinking, harbor entrance command post sounds serious. It was. Defensive positions by the U.S. went all the way up to Biddeford, Maine, came all the way down through Fort Foster in Kittery, Maine, Fort Constitution, Fort Stark, where we are today, and just south of us, Fort Dearborn, which I've already done an episode on, so you can go back and check that episode out. Well, the reason why that structure is so large, and that structure has got a little bit of deception built around it, is mainly because all the communication traffic coming all the way up from Cape Cod, Mass, all the way up to Portland, Maine, this was the hub. Everything coming and going went through the harbor entrance command post as far as communication goes. Okay, so this is Battery Haze here, built in 1905, and it's almost an exact replica to what Battery Little is on the south end of Fort Stark. Okay, so on the left here, you have stairs going up where a 3-inch pedestal mount gun emplacement would be up over here. On the right, you have another up here, up these steps. You have another 3-inch gun emplacement. Up top, you have basically an observation bunker, or that could be your fire control system. And then 3 rooms down below here would have been used for ammunition and regular storage. So, very simple layout, very simple design. This is where one of the 3-inch gun emplacements would be. And there it is. Okay, that's the entrance to the Piscataqua River. So I'm inside one of the bunkers. Obviously, you can tell by the graffiti. But just to give you guys a glimpse of what it would be like looking out of this fire control station or this OP bunker, that's your view. And then, I don't know if you can see it. See that little white lighthouse way down there in the distance? Should be center of your screen. That is the lighthouse on Fort Constitution. North side, Kittery, Maine, on this side where Fort Foster is, there would have been an anti-submarine cable that would have gone from where we currently are to the north side of the river. And then there would have been, this whole harbor entrance was mined. Pretty wild. Would have been a drastically different view in World War II. This brick building right here is the Ordnance machine shop that was built in 1908, 1910. Today, when you come here, I believe during Memorial Day to like first week of October, inside here is a little museum about Fort Stark, so you can have a little bit more background. So like I said earlier, this tower here was part of the first mine command, and it was built in 1908, and it's one of 3 towers, the other one being just north of us at Fort Constitution, and then the third one would have been on the northern side of the Piscataqua River at Fort Foster in Kittery, Maine. Using these 3 towers, you could use triangulation with the 3 towers to sight in mines that were out in the harbor, as well as for sighting in targets. Pretty inventive, pretty neat. I mean, this whole area all the way down, those trees wouldn't be here. So this all would have been clear cut, and this would have been kind of like the epicenter of a mini town for Fort Stark. Now there would have been, all in this open area, you would have had a sentry booth, you would have had first mine command offices, you would have had battery offices, you would have had a building for quartermaster supplies, even a coal shed, and even a fire station. So this whole open area just goes to show you how big and how expansive Fort Stark was in its heyday. If you're ever in New Hampshire, swing by here, check this place out. And if, like I said, if the Ordnance machine shop is open, they do have a little museum exhibit in there regarding Fort Stark. If you're ever in the area, please come check this place out. But yeah, make sure you smash that subscribe button, give the episode a thumbs up, and share it with your friends and family. Make sure that everyone gets their daily dose of history. I will see you guys next week at the same time, same day, same channel.